Are we all settled?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me? Great. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to open this event. My name is Julia Gorlevitskaya. At ITU, I design and build communications campaigns that tell stories of how ITU, through radio communications development and standardization, ensures that technologies continue to serve both people and planet. And storytelling is at the heart of what I do, and it's at the heart of what we're doing today. So we're here to hear perspectives from UN colleagues, experts in technology, and also youth, digital natives, those that have a very special relationship with technology as we've grown up with it, but we also are living with, a future where climate change will determine, the rest of our lives. And so we're here to talk about the intersection between technology, climate, and what role youth will have in determining this sustainable digital future. So I pass the floor to our moderator. Thank you.
Thank you for the good background. My name is Hassan Ndugwa. I come from Uganda, East Africa. I'm also representing Extremely Together, which is a Kofi Annan Foundation initiative. I welcome you all to this intergenerational dialogue, Youth Vision for a Green Digital Future. So I want us to have it very interactive, no formalities. So feel free to contribute, feel free to speak your mind. And the theme is very clear. We want to hear the role of young people in digital technologies for climate action. So just to give you a brief of opening remarks, today's event is co-organized by the International Telecommunication Union as part of the Green Digital Action Initiative, together with the Kofi Annan Foundation. And the foundation works to promote peace, development, and human rights based on the legacy of the former UN Secretary General, Mr. Kofi Annan. The Green Digital Action was launched by ITU at the COP28, bringing together public and private sector to advance climate action through digital technologies. And we are here today to help define the role of youth in this process of advancing climate action through digital technologies. And the output of today's discussion will contribute to the Green Digital Action High-Level Roundtable, which will take place in 2 days on 16th November. Rather than a one-way talk, the aim is for us to have this dialogue. And today's event is recorded and will be posted on the UNFCCC YouTube. It's not anymore? Okay, thanks. Thanks for the correction. Thanks for the correction. So yeah, it gives us an opportunity to even contribute more freely and without any kind of or disruptions. So to show how this is done, so I'll start with of course, introducing our first speakers, Mr. Tomas Lamanauskas, who's the Deputy Secretary General of the ITU. Then also Leyla Hasanova, who's the Youth Climate Champion for COP29, and Felipe, Paullier, the United Nations Assistant Secretary General for Youth Affairs. So to open it up, I want to start with you, Tomas. Grab it.
Okay, thanks. So thank you very much, Hassan, for kicking us off. And indeed, thanks a lot for Leyla as, COP Youth champion for COP being here with us, and of course Youth Office, great our partner in all the things youth, including some of the future action agenda. So Felipe, thanks a lot for being here. Actually, Felipe and I first met a year ago at COP, so I think and now the second time at COP again. So I think that shows that reuniting power of green in this. And indeed, for us, it's also very symbolic. It's our first Green Digital Action event and COP29. So we're starting from the youth event here, and we're building this into the dialogue so we understand from you, and of course we'll speak a little bit, but we want to hear from you what is important in pursuing green digital action. So this is something that we started a year ago as a partnership from green industry, for digital industry to come together. Now we have more than 50 partners to really put both digital and climate agenda, but also climate in the digital agenda, because I think also for a very long time digital industry was just saying, okay, we're just good by itself because we help others to reduce the greenhouse gas emissions, we help others to manage energy better, we help others to reduce waste, we help others to monitor climate, so we are good, don't worry about us, But now we're seeing, especially with artificial intelligence and others, really skyrocketing energy consumption, skyrocketing water consumption, and with that also greenhouse gas emissions. And I think all those very carefully crafted roadmaps for net zero for a lot of digital companies now really crumbling, So what do we do about that? How we balance that, digital growth that we all need with the climate responsibilities that we need to take on, because we don't want to fry our planet while we develop, So how do we do that? Again, this week will be for us rather, big week. This is the first digitalization day at any COP, which we'll have on Saturday, on the 16th. We'll already have a great, multi-stakeholder lineup from ministers, heads of UN agencies, as well as private sector, really looking in how to do that. We already we're getting endorsements, a lot of endorsements, I have to say, on a Green Digital Action Declaration, first ever Green Digital Action Declaration at COP. And we'll, of course, want to hear youth voices youth voice in that as well. And so today is to kind of start to get us on a good note, to understand what's needed, to understand what's the perspective of people gathered there around the table, how we can actually further boost the green actions through digital tools, but also what's needed for a digital industry to take on the responsibilities as well. So thank you, Mr.
Right
Hassan.
there. So what can youth contribute to the Green Digital Action, which is currently missed?
So first of all, youth is the most connected population around the world. So I think, in terms of, if you look, about 20 percentage points, around the world, and actually across even these developing countries, youth are way more connected in terms of digital connectivity than other parts of the population. Now that means you can share and spread information and knowledge. You can actually exchange activism, if you will, kind of make sure that the message is heard. But also, guys, just a reminder, that means you're also the biggest contributors from the digital community. So you also emit, by using those digital tools. So you also have responsibility. So always these hands have two parts of this. So we always want sometimes to only think about our good part, but not always the bad part. Youth is also the most prolific device users, that all the e-waste, So there's also thinking that our actions have good side of it. We can advocate, we can fight for the change, to stopping the climate crisis, we can figure out the solutions, but at the same time, while we do that, we also leave their own thing. That's what's called footprint and handprint. I always confuse these two terms, So I think how we do that as well. So I think this is an active population that needs to matter. One thing I always say though about when I am in youth events is, youth cannot be the only defining characteristic of any person, So I think I used to be the person who was defined as the youngest in something, and I was told by someone, it was the famous phrase I was told, is a deficiency that passes very quickly. So if you only associate it with being a young person, in 5 years from now, I can promise you, you will lose that characteristic. So it's also, these all different. So for me, it's not only about youth voices, but young professionals who are coming from different fields and walks of life, social media users that use differently technology in different ways of life, consumers of different technologies, and bringing that perspective to the table.
Yeah, thank you. I have follow-up questions for you, but later. So I'll go to you, Leyla. So COP 2019 brings a renewed focus on transformative solutions. What role do you see for youth, particularly in the context of the Green Digital Action Initiative?
Thank you so much. Thanks for inviting me to the panel. Good morning, everyone. Basically, I would start with introducing my role, first of all, because it's a new one, and I really want everyone to understand what is it about. Presidency Youth Climate Champion role was established last year at COP28 by the decision of parties, and now each presidency will have a focal point for youth. As a high-level decision makers, they most of the times they do not know what is better for young people, where is the gap, and where they can fit in properly. This role actually makes the bridge between young people and the presidencies. And as it was mentioned previously, it's the first ever COP having a digitalization day, and it's first ever COP having a human development day, which will be taking place on November 18. And it also has the cross-cutting themes as children and youth and health. So where I want to start is that human development is important for all of us, for young people especially, because if we do not have the capacity and if we do not get equipped with the proper knowledge on how to act on a daily basis, how to do our daily actions more sustainable in a way that it's a better and greener future, then it has no sense, actually. There is just no way out of this chaos and challenge. So bringing digitalization and here also intergenerational dialogue as well, as we gather here for that, I truly think that if we young people are already digitalized, we have this all equipments, AI coming into new era, we need to and we have to have this intergenerational dialogue, because otherwise it will not get us understand what kind of mistakes were done previously. The previous generation that actually maybe they were not even knowing and realizing what kind of the world they are leaving for us. But still they did, and thankfully we now have the capacity to understand what kind of mistakes have been done and how we can undertake them and do not repeat them. By actually talking to previous generation, having this exchange of ideas and perspectives, we can build a more sustainable future.
Thank you, Leyla. I'll get back to you. You want to say something? No. Okay. I'll go to you, Paullier. As the most senior youth representative in the UN system, what lessons can you share about ensuring meaningful youth engagement and participation in initiatives such as the Green Digital Action?
So, first of all, good morning to all. I'm happy to be here. I like at the end the format we are having, because I think this is more a fire chat conversation, and I think that's nice. Thank you, Hassan. So first of all, I would like to clarify a little bit. You mentioned I'm the most senior representative of youth. I'm not that. I'm not a I don't feel myself, in my role as a representative of young people, because I was not elected by young people, and I think that's a very important appreciation I want to make about my role within the United Nations system. I'm the youngest senior appointment in the United Nations. I am that, but I am there, of course, after a process. I was finally appointed by the organization to take a role within the organization. And my role is not really about representing young voices. And why? Because youth voices are extremely diverse to be represented by one person or by one office, We see, because this is the vision of my team in the United Nations Youth Office, that we are enablers, that our role is really about enabling, participating within the UN system, I strongly believe that young people are not to be represented, but they are to participate within institutions, you know. And actually, that's what we are trying to do, you know. The establishment of the United Nations Youth Office is, in terms of 80 years of the UN, next year, it's a quite new structure, you know. It was established in 2022 by the UN General Assembly. So this means that this office was established with a mandate, so for a reason, and with certain capacity to work across the UN system to really catalyze the way the organization and member states that are part of the organization, so governments that are part of the UN, are engaging young people in their own mandates, you know? And that's why I'm extremely happy to be here with ITU, because ITU is a big, important part of the UN system. And actually, they are doing great when it's about advancing youth issues. And they're a good example of one of our entities within the UN system as a whole that is really advancing in how to really engage young people in a meaningful way according to the specific mandate ITU has in the system, you know? Because the ones that know the best how to really engage young people within the digital space are ITU team, you know? What's our role then? So our role is really about convening. It's about bringing together the UN system. It's about trying to bring together the governments, so member states that are parts of the UN, and it's somehow try to create spaces for young people also to convene within the UN system, you know? Because sometimes when we look at the youth space, it's a quite disaggregated space, you know? So there's a lot of young, because it's in the essence of youth, you know? Youth, it's an age group. So that means there's young people across many fields, you know? It's not that you can think about young people as an homogeneous group, you know? You have young people that are experts on the digital space. You have young people that are experts on the intersection of digital and climate. You have young people that are experts on the health space, you know, and I can continue to follow, you know? So we believe that really to advance on young people's inclusion on the decision-making part, which I think is where we still have a big gap, you know? We have advanced a lot within the UN, and governments also have advanced a lot in creating spaces for consultation, in creating spaces for participation. But what we are hearing from young people is there's something there about the meaning of this participation, you know? And this has to do a lot in how this is connected with decision making, you know? And I think that the crucial part of this is accountability, you know? It's what happens with the participation, you know? In terms of what we are doing on this specific space, you know, during September, the UN had a very important, not event, but a very important, I can say, like a landmark, which was the Summit of the Future, you know? The UN is definitely a unique platform, but it's very clear that in order to continue to be a platform that really is future fit and it's addressing the challenges of this world, needs to change. And the Summit of the Future was about that, was about member states coming together, so governments, 183 governments, coming together and say, okay, what are the reforms we need to implement, you know? And outcomes from that conference are the Global Digital Compact, which is a specific commitment of governments in certain issues that have to do with the digital and the innovation space, a pact for the future that includes a more broader perspective across many things, and a declaration of future generations. And the three of them have a big emphasis on youth. And the clue behind this is how to unpack the meaningful participation, you know? We invited a lot of young people with the partnership of ITU during the summit to participate in a youth open space, you know? Because usually sometimes the processes of the UN are between member states, you know? But I think we all agree that we need to be a more inclusive UN, you know? So that's why we did that. And the outcomes from that space were what young people said. It's not my opinion from that space, and now we're trying to follow up on those recommendations with all the entities that were part, is that we need to identify and highlight the disparities and barriers when it's about young people access to technology. So it's not the same when you're in a middle-income, high-income country than when you're in a low-income country, and that's a clear barrier we still have. And I know it's a big priority for all the UN, not only for ITU. This is across all the UN entities. We need to discuss what's the impact of emerging digital technologies and the consequence also that are having on young people, and how we create platforms to really protect youth from digital harms. So that was the second conclusion that came from that space. So again, this is not my opinion, this is what came from the action days of the Summit of the Future. A third part was advocating for youth inclusion in digital and in AI policy making, because definitely, if we are 50% of the world's population, we are the most affected for what we do or what we not do on this. And the fourth was about exploring strategies to mitigate growing digital risk and leveraging opportunities to build inclusive and safe digital spaces for our young people. That's what young people brought at that space in New York.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paullier. Before I invite, feel free to ask any question or make a contribution to the discussion already. But I wanted to come back to you, Thomas. So were youth involved at the design stage of the Green Digital Action? So yeah, can you shed more light on that?
Thanks a lot. So we have different ways in ITU to involve youth. So we already have, and maybe I'll ask them later on, it will be great if our member of Secretary General's Youth Advisory Board talks as well, so I'm putting you on the spot, so here. But I think how we involve youth in our day-to-day consultation on different aspects. So we have different entry points. We have Secretary General's Youth Advisory Board that advises us across all the gamut of issues. We have from our own staff, we have Youth Task Force, so our young colleagues that all come together to discuss things. I hope you're part of that. So who are advising us as well on the youth issues from the staff perspective. And then we have, of course, from a broader community perspective, many youth organizations get participate through our multi-stakeholder processes. For example, our WISIS process, World Summit Information Society process, that 20 years ago started, a process with the World Summit Information Society 2003 in Geneva and 2005 in Tunis, that set the global digital cooperation agenda for the 20 years now, and we now will be reviewing that. So this involves a lot of civil society organizations, different other stakeholders, and again, youth is getting involved. We also have a direct input. For example, our business process is asking for the public inputs from civil society organizations. It was so nice moment for me. Actually, last week I had a meeting in Geneva, convened by European Union delegation, with all the trainees of different permanent missions and international organizations in Geneva, around 80 of them, and they say how we can contribute. I say, look, you have to organize and advocate, so that, and then please submit your contributions. And I got a response now, I think, just an email from them. They're already gearing up to submit a contribution through our business platform as well. So I think the channels are open. Now we need those channels to bring the conversations alive.
Thank you. Leyla, last before I invite anyone from the audience. So what barriers are youth of today facing in engaging initiatives such as the GDA?
Thank you. Well, there are so many barriers that young people face, and myself is included in that number of young people, because actually it's really hard sometimes to push for so many things, and it's our duty to do so. And as mentioned by Felipe, I also do not represent young people in the communities where I go and where I work. I try to bridge and elevate the youth voices in the places where I visit. I try to make sure that their voices are heard and their concerns are also heard, but it's definitely not representation. And that is one of the issues that we face. The representation is to be representing even here. Countries select their negotiations team, but most of the times young people are not included in those negotiations team. That's why my role actually exists, to push everyone around whom I can, to make sure that they meaningfully include young people, not just for the sake of getting the badge and participate and having a photo, but really contributing to the discussion and having this voice included. Because the future that is being decided here in these rooms are our future. So one of the main issues and barriers is definitely participation. And I think that is the very much important part of our role, mine and Felipe's as well.
Thank you. Yes, just grab the mic and say something.
Thank you very much, and good morning. Just wanted to add a couple points on how to get engaged as youth. So my name is Bilal Jamoussi. I'm Deputy Director of Standards at the ITU. And we have a number of mechanisms for youth to really participate in the standards making. Just to give you an example of a standard that we all use every day, the Universal Charter is one of the ITU standards developed almost 10 years ago. To make sure that we can interchange chargers, reduce e-waste, reduce energy consumption, because the charger does not use electricity when it's not plugged to a phone, but plugged to a wall. So these are some of the technical aspects of a standard that has direct implication on the environment. But how do we develop those standards? We develop them by the 194 member states, 1,000 private companies, and about 200 universities. So in all of those delegations that come to ITU to participate, the youth has a channel, especially from universities. Universities play an equal role in the standards development with member states, with the private sector in terms of participation and contribution. And having you around the table to develop those standards, set the requirements, is critical so that the standards are really relevant to your daily life, the digital life of the youth. So that's one unique aspect of the ITU, that it has private sector directly as a member, but also has academia and universities. Another way that we have been engaging youth is through challenges, especially in the area of AI and machine learning, to try to bridge the gap between developed and developing countries. So the challenge, and Tomas, one of our young doctors, maybe you can say a few more words about the challenges in a minute, is one way to engage youth around developing countries. Reina, who is our counselor of the study group that develops these international standards on how to measure the impact of ICT on the environment, how to measure the impact of ICT on other sectors. For example, when we talk about AI and the use of AI of energy, there is two sides to the coin. One in terms of energy consumption. Of course, data centers are very electricity hungry and water to cool it and so on. But at the same time, the models that are developed could reduce the energy consumption of other sectors. You could optimize the transport route of buses, for example, using modeling. So those are some examples on how we need to look at both sides of the coin. And to our youth envoy, on AI and the Global Digital Compact, one element that is very much top of mind is the deep fakes, misinformation, disinformation. And we have a collaboration between ITU, ISO, and IEC on multimedia authenticity. And there we also would love to have more youth engaged in how to detect, how to mitigate, and how to deal with multimedia authenticity aspects. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just briefly ask you to introduce yourself for the benefit of all of us too.
Sure. Bilal Jamoussi, I'm the Deputy Director of Standards at the ITU.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I open it up for anyone else to make a contribution. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Hi. It is an honor to be here. Hi, everyone. My name is Elena Alexandra Myron, and I am from Romania. I'm probably the first youth delegate from Romania, and I'm here with Larissa. She is representing also Romania. We're both here. Thank you so much for the introduction. I believe that this topic is not really well discussed, and I would like to address a few things, just like making a contribution to the discussion, and maybe we can see further. I'm very excited about it. So first of all, I would like to point out the use of digitalization in a way. So besides the youth representation, I'm also working within the Ministry of Investments and European Funds. So I'm a young person being in the public sector, which makes a difference in terms of how we are doing things there, in the intergenerational discussions that we have there, and how we do things in terms of like changing a little bit of how we are doing things within the government and the ministry. And I'm seeing like using the bureaucracy less and digitalization more. You'll kind of see, or probably if you look up in Romania, because we have a lot of young people involved in the Ministry of Digitalization, everything kind of got very easy. And the processes that we have in Romania are very easy to understand in terms of digitalization. We are like increasing the skills of a lot of the public sector as well as the private. Another thing that I would like to address, there is a misconception of using digital instruments for good. I mean, of course, you can, as it was addressed already, deep fake, misinformation, there are already out there. But I feel like if young people would know that these instruments can be used for good, for educating our communities, and that's what we are trying to do as well. We are trying to use it for good and make sure that there is more education out there in Romanian, very simple to understand, very easy to not to understand, but to apply it in daily activities as well. So these are 2 points. I would say that being involved in some processes that needs to be changed, within the ministries as well, and how the government is actually doing things. And then another thing would be addressing education for good. And another thing, very short, and I'll go further with the discussion. Another thing that I would like to address is that using AI is so unsustainable in a way that if you are doing it wrong. So I think young people can really address that. I think we understand better that these new tools can be quite carbon intensive, exactly. And I think this could be addressed as well by young people, making sure that we have this addressed as much as we can. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing experiences from Romania. Yes, my brother.
Thank you so much. My name is Tomas from ITU. I just want to complement the topics that are being said, especially what Birera talked about. And of course, here also from Romania, they talked about AI. We are working on capacity building most of the times for youth. So we're developing competitions that complement the technical work from class. So most of the times in classroom, you see people studying when they are developing models. The data they use is always just same from year in, year out. So we provide data from real life to complement the theory in class to apply in real world. But of course, it's not all about technical. Youth can also benefit from non-technical, I would say, participation in AI processes. So for example, in IT, we have the AI for Good, and there are different processes. So we have the competitions, which are technical. We have the AI Governance Day, which the youth can participate to bring their voice on the table. We have the standards that Birero mentioned about, especially the multimedia authenticity, most of the fake news or like misinformation that happens online is affecting the youth so much. So if the youth can participate in these kind of processes, it can be more beneficial. And we are talking about the energy consumption of AI. We have a session on 16th. We are discussing about this as well. So I would like to invite everyone to join as well on our discussion about how we can reduce the energy consumption of AI. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, just go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be here. I am representing the Young Youth Advisory Board as a member in ITU. I've been selected this year, and there's a bit different. Now I am the part of the voice in the board member of the ITU. So just a brief introduction that our board is a forward-looking initiative designed to especially empower the young people to shape the future and the global connectivity within that. And through this platform, our youth voices have a direct channel to the ITU leadership, bringing the fresh and the innovative and especially inclusive aspects from not only technical AI space, but also the policy, regulation, and finance in this regard as well. And our missions genuinely is extending to the youth involvement in the policy and strategy within the ITU, especially towards to the sustainable development goals and to fostering and moving toward in those initiatives. And just a brief on that, we had some quite long of the points that we wanted to mention out, but I would like to point out two highlights for the governance approaches and the recommendation for sustainability in space and the climate. So the first one is the finance and green digital transformation. So as we know that the expanding climate finance, especially for the digital infrastructure projects in developing regions, will be really essential. And digital transformation as well as the climate resilience can actually be the advanced through the increasement in the data centers, green technologies, renewable energies, and as well as in Malaysia, selecting the example, green data centers, or like Singapore's green growth policies in this regard. And the second one is the policy and the digital sustainability. So the interconnection between actually the digital infrastructure and the climate change requires comprehensive policies that promote both of these sustainable data growth and environmental responsibilities. And especially these points highlight the SDG 9 on industry innovation, infrastructure, and SDG 13. Of course, I'm mentioning a bit more different approach to the table on the space and especially the satellite implementations. By the way, I didn't just too much introduce myself, I'm Nadir. I also professional work at the Space Agency of Azerbaijan, Cosmos, and as a senior hardware research engineer. And within that, I would like to mention the few applications that really highlights the points for the satellite, especially for Earth observation and imagery, to be able to then forward to AI analysis and then, of course, for the climate change and monitoring of our Earth. And there are quite a lot of them, but just focusing on the three as the global climate monitoring. As we know, the satellites do provide the crucial data on that. Supporting the renewable energy is the part of the optimization of the solar, wind, hydropower resources by allocating that monitoring process on the Earth's climate changing. And of course, the disaster preparedness and response, which is the highlights the satellite providing the early warning for our hurricanes, floods, and all that wild stuff that happen around. And but of course, the technological part aspect and the essential role, especially supporting the low developing country LDCs, and is like three that we're mentioning. As one as the accessibility to essential climate data. That's of course it highlights the usability and accessibility to the LDCs to be able to relocate and use on that. The strength in the disaster resilience is the vulnerable. Of course, we know the countries rely on satellite-based data, especially on the climate change and the resilience to be able to more effectively analyze and get to result. And of course, the air quality and the health monitoring is the part of also the Earth observation satellites, which are tracking and allocating the pollution of the Earth, monitoring particulate matters and ozone layers especially. And overall, these actions and priorities given by the space, especially the satellite analysis, really stands out. And we, as also being the board member, it's also my responsibility to be able to, share and bring up those points and the table. Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. I see you. Okay, you can say.
Hello everyone, my name is Roman and I'm ITU GCYOP fellow from Azerbaijan. There are several points were mentioned about AI, application of AI and green energy, but as application security specialist, I want to mention this concern as well, and I think that young generation should also somehow take it into account, is the level of trust. So when we deal with AI. The problem that I see from my professional perspective when some people are using AI, I'm working in a software development company, so basically they using simplest AI tools like ChatGPT, and sometimes they leave their credentials, they just put their passwords, usernames, so on to the ChatGPT, which is of course not good. And another point is that sometimes when we just blindly trust the way how AI models are giving us suggestions, answers, is not the best way. Why it is important for climate change as well? Because when you're working with AI, for example, you're using AI suggestions for example, when you develop a software, and at the same time you're working with a critical infrastructure, and you blindly trust what AI is giving to you, you can end up with bad consequences. Where I mean, just one bad guy, let's say, will utilize the vulnerability that AI provided you within the code, and at the end, you end up with your critical infrastructure is compromised in the best case, and in the worst case, for example, it can be a nuclear power station or any kind of power grid, and at the end, we will have very bad consequences. So that is why when we deal with AI, I think, and it should be also a kind of suggestions for older generations, because sometimes what I see, more even some professional guys, sometimes they just blindly trust AI, they don't understand the logic, and it is not good. So when we're using AI, we don't need to, there's no need to turn off your mind when you use AI. So basically that's it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We don't have a lot of time, and I think it's been a great conversation. But before you leave, the two of you, would you just give brief, remarks on this whole conversation and key takeaways?
Both have to run.
I understand.
Because it's the opening of the Youth and Children's Pavilion, and Leyla and me are invited to that ceremony. But as I said at the beginning, thank to ITU also for the huge efforts that you are doing with the expertise you have on the field. And I'm hopeful that as we advance with the implementation of the commitments that governments made in the Summit of the Future, there is plenty of more space to really advance on a more meaningful inclusion of young people across the whole of our mandates within the UN and across what governments at the national level are doing also.
Thank you.
Thanks, Felipe. Yeah, we're running to participate in the opening of a very important spot in the actually, that's what I was about to say, that Children and Youth Pavilion is right there in the blue zone. And it's one of the actions and gaps that were there for youth participation. It's the only space for young people to gather all together. And we have the amazing steering committee there. We have each presidency supporting and participating in that space. So I truly would like to invite you all there and to thank you for joining us, for listening, and to make your voices heard. Just really learn good the subject that you want them to know about you, the challenges that you want them to know. So just good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, good luck too in your conversations. Yeah, so from, I think it's been a fruitful discussion from my side. I think I've gathered a lot of information, but what is coming out strongly is meaningful youth engagement rather than tokenism. So we want to see more young people engaged and given space to take action using digital technologies. Thomas, would you give some closing remarks?
Thanks a lot, Hassan, indeed. Very short, so to let us all to go to the opening of the Youth and Children Pavilion. And indeed, I think thanks for a great kick-starting of the conversation. It's great to hear not only how to generally youth needs to be engaged, but also specific topics like AI, like disinformation. And I think it's already, make use of the connections here, exchanging business cards and everything, so that you can get involved. It's a great kickstart for our Green Digital Action at COP29 as well. I think I really echo what Leyla said about youth involvement in the delegations. We're also working a lot on that in ITU. I think the most meaningful pathway is that. These youth conversations should be not the end of it. Youth conversations should be just the beginning of then making sure that we are part of, that everyone is a part of a main conversation, not a side conversation. And let's work on that and bringing all those perspectives into this. So thank you again for everyone. Have a great day. Have a great COP. Thanks.
It's closed.